This movie is terrible. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Planet of the Apes is a great movie. I'm not sure I could call it a masterpiece, but it's entertaining and thought provoking, despite a few goofy moments. When I got the 5 movie box set last Christmas, watching the original again just left me with so much curiosity. You know, they say the sign of a good storyteller is that you leave people wanting more. That's definitely true here. It just left me wondering, what happens next?
Cornelius and Zira are about to be tried for heresy. Is this the ends of their careers? Will they have a normal life again? Taylor, who is so condemning of humanity early on, spends his whole time among the apes trying to fight their prejudice, only to find out that they actually have good reason to hate him. The destructive nature of his people wiped them out and made a desert of the world. What does he do with this knowledge? Does he tough it out in the Forbidden Zone? Does he die there? Does he return? Do the apes ever learn the truth about what actually happened before their time? Oh, and what's with Charlton Heston shacking up with what's essentially an animal with a human body? That's kinda creepy.
These questions haunted me, or at least most of them did. But I was afraid to pop in the next DVD and find out because Hollywood has done this to me so many times before. If there's ever a point where the audience is left wanting more, they're going to give you as much more as bludgeonly as possible until you're sick of the whole thing and don't care anymore. Remember how the end of The Matrix left everyone with these similar questions? Remember how disappointed everyone was with the sequels? Same principle. But you know what? The crazy thing is, I kind of liked the Matrix sequels.
They didn't have anywhere near the same kind of intrigue and thoughtful undertones, but the action was cool. I finally got up the courage to watch Beneath the Planet of the Apes, knowing full well it was probably going to be a mistake. Curiosity drove me places I knew I should not venture. I've done a good job up until now not being overly upset over bad sequels or adaptations. I saw Alien vs. Predator and didn't find it that bad. Why? Because I didn't drag along any expectations that go along with the Alien or Predator franchises. I just appreciated it for what it was. A dumb action movie. I'm not sure how this is different, but it was. Beneath the Planet of the Apes just eviscerated the original concept. Every question left unanswered was answered in this movie in the lamest way you could imagine. Questions no one would ever think to ask are answered just so you get upset that the questions themselves were even entertained. I just can't possibly enjoy Planet of the Apes unless I separate this movie from my mind. Okay, maybe you think I'm being really harsh. IMDb gives this movie a 6.0 out of 10. That's pretty good, right? Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 41% with an average rating of 5.3 out of 10. So, okay, that's bad, but not terrible. I think I'm going to have to back up my statements with argument here, so let's take a good hard look at this movie and why it hurts my brain, which has endured some pretty bad stuff. The movie starts with a 3-minute recap of the first movie, and then opening credits, and another 2 minutes of Charlton Heston riding through the desert. Boo! Then we come to a crashed spaceship in the middle of the Forbidden Zone, and a newcomer. Now that is kind of interesting. It raises some questions too. Taylor couldn't prove he came from another planet because his ship sank into the ocean. If this one crashed in the desert, that's some hard evidence. At the same time, if this ship was so thoroughly destroyed from the landing, seriously, look at it. How did this guy survive? Oh, sorry, 2 guys. Well, we didn't really see it crash, so it's not something I can really pick apart. There is a well-done dramatic moment where they come to realize that they've leapt forward in time by 2,000 years, much in the same way as the original mission.
Oh my God. My wife. My 2 daughters. Dead. Everyone I ever knew. Everyone.
Then the captain dies of blind, and this guy Brent is the only one left. Right away, we can see this guy's a genius, because he sits around waiting for days. It never actually says that, but you can see him discovering that he's out of water. In the first movie, the crew had enough supplies to last the 3 of them for 3 days, and that's what they managed to salvage from a ship that sank into the ocean. I know it's a good idea to stick around if you're expecting to get rescued, but everyone he's ever known has been dead for thousands of years. And rather than exploring or looking for food and water, he just sits there. Until he's finally discovered by Nova from the first movie. What a huge coincidence!
Don't be afraid. Can you understand me? My name's Brent. Brent.
I don't know if this is in Brent's space manual, but I think making peaceful contact with an alien is best not done by shouting at them while aggressively wielding a shovel. There should also be a chapter about how they might not speak English, you dumb tard! He realizes she's wearing Taylor's dog tags and... Like, seriously, this is the second biggest coincidence in the history of cinema. The only other human being in the entire universe who knows Taylor is the first person he accidentally bumps into.
Taylor.
I don't know if you're aware of just how monstrously huge our planet is, but try crash landing into it from space sometime, and let me know if you just happen to end up on your dad's doorstep, as opposed to the middle of Mozambique. Anyway, he says the name Taylor to her, and this stirs a flashback to some previously unseen point in their history, where Taylor is trying to teach her to speak.
Nova.
Oh, and trying to teach her to read, too.
Taylor.
I guess he somehow forgot that she has the mind of a stupid. Then, what's going on here? I know special effects were limited in the 70s, but what exactly is happening? Giant walls of flame? A dozen bolts of lightning all at once? Was this in the script, or did the director just think it would be fun to throw in a bunch of special effects since nothing else was happening? Was it a wizard? Yeah, let's say a wizard did it.
Listen now. If you lose me, try to find Zira.
Oh, of course, that makes sense.
Go find
Even assuming she has any possible way to understand his strange people mouth noises, she's supposed to go right back to the Ape City and find Zira without, I don't know, getting captured or shot, since, you know, apes hunt people on this planet? So Taylor goes right through an illusory wall, and the whole thing turns back into a flat desert, and he's nowhere in sight. Strange.
Did he give it to you? Where did you get this?
So the flashback ends, and presumably Brent has been yelling at her the whole time she was daydreaming, but she somehow manages to grind the rusty, broken gears in her head until they manage to turn just enough to make her realize that she should take him to the city. Here, Brent and we get our first glimpse at apes in the movie.
It's a city of apes.
Look at the costumes! I mean, a lot of them look pretty good, probably because they were left over from the first movie. But most of them look like this, just permanently agape like some kind of blow-up doll. Oh, and we see that Zira and Cornelius are fine. So, were they tried for heresy? Were they acquitted? Did they serve out some kind of sentence and then return to society without public scorn? This was one of my big what next questions, and they just totally skip over it. Thanks, movie. So we see that there's division among the apes. The gorillas are planning an invasion of the Forbidden Zone, but the orangutans and chimps are skeptical? Curious? It's kind of hard to tell with their mouths wide open. Brent also hears this.
The only good human is a dead human!
It's a bloody nightmare.
So he runs. A nearby gorilla hears noise coming from the bushes and decides it would be a good idea to shoot it. Smart guy. It couldn't be one of his gorilla buddies taking a leak. Or, yeah, just a bird. Is it gorilla policy to shoot first and ask questions at the funeral? Do these guys ever run out of ammo if they just shoot every time they hear something? Is the area surrounding town just littered with bullets and shell casings from guerrillas shooting at noises just in case? Before the pressing issue of Brent's arm wound is dealt with, we see the guerrilla general Ursus having a nice sauna with Dr. Zaius, and they discuss why he wants to go to war.
12 of my finest scouts just disappeared, vanished into thin air. And the 12th returns with incredible stories of huge walls of fire.
There is one rather decent exchange between the two characters.
So we invade or we stop. It's as simple as that.
And as dangerous.
What is more dangerous than famine, Doctor?
The unknown.
Yeah, see, that's good. Some nice characterization there. You can really see the characters' motivations. However, despite this exchange, the scene gives us some baffling logic. Ursus is convinced there's something out there in the Forbidden Zone. His only evidence he has is that his men are disappearing. Oh, and one of them hallucinated about fire and earthquakes in the middle of the desert. So from this he gets the brilliant idea that there are living creatures out there that he doesn't understand, and the even more brilliant idea that whatever it is, he should kill it. Give this ape a Nobel.
Gorillas are cruel because they're stupid. All bone and no brain.
With Nova's help, Brent sneaks into Zira's house. How does he know he can trust her? He just saw her at a rally where they were extolling the virtues of killing humans. But that's secondary, because here, kids, is the first of 5 huge problems I have with this movie. How did Fleshy Magoo here get right into Zira's home? Look at the first movie when Taylor escapes from his cage. Everywhere he turns, there are more apes, all alarmed that a human is on the loose in their city. He doesn't get far at all. And now we're supposed to buy that 2 humans, one of whom is bleeding all over the street, can walk from outside the city right into someone's house in broad daylight right after some kind of big political rally, and not one single ape sees them? How did he get inside? Do apes not lock their doors? Maybe we're meant to believe that these apes are not the corrupt, violent beings that men are, and have a more open society where they just leave their doors open. I might be willing to buy that if not for Zira's overt racism against the gorillas, the fact that they not only have guns but blindly fire them into bushes when they hear noises, and are about to wage all-out warfare against an enemy that they don't know for sure even exists. Oh, and let's not forget domestic abuse. Dr. Zaius drops in for a chat, and since Zira was tending to Brent's wounds, there's blood everywhere. So Zira tells him that Cornelius hit her for making a scene at the rally. That's just splendid. So now instead of finding a couple of humans, which Zira works with all the time as a veterinary scientist, he just thinks Cornelius is the sort of guy who punches his woman in the face over politics. And what does Zaius have to say about this?
I don't blame him.
Yeah, humans really do look like the bad guys here, don't they?
Other than that, Zaius actually seems pretty decent here.
And I kind of like that. He sort of played the bad guy role in the first movie, but you can see here that he's not so different from Zira and Cornelius. He doesn't like the guerrillas' plans for war either, but his hands are tied diplomatically. He's a smart, interesting character, and I just sort of like how he's become one of the good guys. Oh, and I'm kind of relieved when this happens.
I am asking for a truce with your personal convictions in an hour of public danger.
And you shall have it, Dr. Zaius, or I shall hit her again.
Let us have no violence, Cornelius.
See, that at least tells me that he does not condone spousal abuse, even if he tolerated it. Otherwise, I don't know what message this movie was conveying here. So Zira and Cornelius tell Brent that if he wants to blend in, he should get rid of his clothes and dog tags. Are they not alarmed that he has such things? When Taylor told them he arrived from space, they didn't believe him. But this guy's carrying stuff that's not found anywhere on their planet. As scientists, aren't they the least bit curious about that? Oh, and she asks if they have a horse, and he assures them he does. I mean, that's great that he has a faster means of travel, so he can get out of the city before he's ape slaughtered. But don't you think that would look weird? Imagine the opposite in our society, if you saw an ape driving a car.
Now there's something you don't see every day.
Okay, I'm exaggerating a little. I suppose in our world, an orangutan could learn to ride a horse, but if you saw one doing it, you'd at least wonder who taught it to do that. Brent and Nova ride for a while before gorillas shoot their horse and capture them. Then they see this. Man, does this society not have an equivalent to PETA? I don't think anyone in our world would get away with using monkeys as punching bags. Our hero and his pet end up back in Zira's lab, and she tries to rescue them, but...
No. No, you can't have them. They are marked for target practice.
Jeez, how many do they need? Are they going through humans so fast they keep running out and need to round them up for more targets? Remember how the first movie was trying to hold a mirror to humanity and show how destructive we've become? What's this movie telling us? Gorillas are violent and ruthless, but chimpanzees are intelligent and peaceful? That's racism! Look, I know it's a fictional group of sentient apes, but the message has changed from beware of yourselves to beware of people who are different from you. That's racism! Why do they even need humans for target practice so badly? Tackling them off horses and trapping them in nets can be easily accomplished with other gorillas without causing any harm. And if they're shooting them, they can just shoot walls or dummies like real armies do. It's just a big, hey, how can we make the bad guys look really bad?
Wait, wait! I'd better double lock the door.
Double lock the door? What does that mean? Are the gorillas really that stupid? She's a scientist, so they just assume what she says makes sense? Could she have said anything? Hold on, I'll anesthetize the door so you don't catch lock rabies. Or how about, I'll create a GUI interface in Visual Basic and see if I can track an IP address. So Brent manages to take out the driver and steals the horses from the wagon. But what's this? A gorilla saw the whole thing. And he just happens to have a whole squad of cavalry with him that were all just standing around silently in the bushes, yet he didn't alert any of them until the humans were done making their getaway. And the entire squad has nothing better to do than chase a couple of fleeing animals. Okay, they did knock someone out and steal his horses, so let's just assume whatever this small army is doing out there is so unimportant that they don't think sending less than their entire group is unwarranted. Soon, Brent comes to a dead end, climbs off his high horse, and leads Nova to a cave and discovers an old New York subway system. What the crummity butt crumbs? In 2,000 years, not one single ape wandered into an open cave and discovered some extremely well-preserved evidence of past civilization. Cornelius spent his entire scientific career searching for evidence of an advanced civilization that existed before them, which led to a few deeply buried trinkets in an excavation site out in the Forbidden Zone, which were contestable, but Dr. Zaius buried them again just in case in a desperate attempt to prevent the truth coming out, when all this time, someone only needed to walk into a cave not a few minutes off the road and see an entire train station. Oh, and after 2,000 years, this poster is still legible. Brent, upon realizing he's on Earth after all, has this to say.
Did we finally really do it?
Which is almost word for word the same thing Taylor said.
We finally really did it.
Yet another huge, amazing coincidence. What's with this guy? Is his head some kind of cosmic compass for improbability? Can he not scratch his butt without winning the lottery? Oh, and by the way, everyone seems to have forgotten that he's being hunted by a dozen gorillas. Does walking into a huge, wide-open cave really count as giving them the slip? As we're left pondering this, we cut to some orangutan priest making a prayer that is so awkward that even Dr. Zaius face palms. You know something's wrong when the defender of the faith finds your prayer embarrassing. It's like he knows how dumb his big monkey religion looks to us viewers. Then, as the army marches out to battle what might just be nothing, they discover a bunch of young chimpanzees protesting their nonsensical war. And here is where I discovered that this whole war subplot is one big analogy for Vietnam. This is number 2 of my 5 major problems with this movie.
People, Allegory in fiction is a bad thing. It's a cheap attempt at making your story seem smarter than it is. It's a clumsy way to insert a message into your story. It's pretentious. It's not always clear what message you're trying to convey. It makes people go ridiculous lengths looking for patterns that usually aren't even there. It makes them act like douches trying to explain to you what the story is really about.
She is a representation of the masculine. She's anti what this is. She is the penis.
It rarely makes sense within the context of the story, and it ruins suspension of disbelief by taking you out of the story just to understand it.
To put it simply, I just don't appreciate this movie's writer taking the Planet of the Apes franchise and cramming his political views into it like a big trapezoidal pig into a small round hole. It's especially bad when Ursus orders his apes to stop the protesters, and Dr. Zaius advises him not to make martyrs of them.
We don't want martyrs, do we?
Just awesome movie. Your cartoonish villain is so polarized that he was about to kill a bunch of kids because they were in the way of his army. Instead, he tells the gorillas to deal with them quietly. So they grab the chimps and stick them into cages while they repeatedly scream out protests. Yeah, real quiet, guys. So we cut back to Brent having a nap, not more than a fart's whiff from the mouth of the cave. He gets up and decides it might be a good idea to drink the water dripping from a slimy stalactite. After immediately regretting it, he starts pondering out loud where humanity went wrong.
Are you what we were? Before we learned to talk, made a mess of everything. Did any good ever come from all that talk, Randolph?
You're one to talk. Whoa, my brain just went recursive. Yep, it just exploded.